Look at you. Uninvited, unapproved, unstoppable. Every step you take right now is a glitch in their system. Every breath you exhale is a warning siren they can't localize. They're in private channels, typing furiously, whispering in rooms you'll never see. Because you've become the ghost in their firewall, the rumor in their bloodstream, the question they can't answer without exposing the whole scam. They don't know how you're doing this. They don't know how you keep moving without a permit, without a script, without a handler. And that's what terrifies them. You were supposed to ask for permission. You were supposed to wait your turn. You were supposed to bow to their invisible architecture. But you didn't. You walked through walls. You recoded the game with your bare hands. You broke out of their definitions, and now they're staring at the hole you left behind, like it's a portal to a future they can't survive. They built entire rooms around your obedience, and now those rooms are on fire, lit by your absence, fed by their own fear. They whisper your name now like it's a curse, not because you're loud, but because your quiet is lethal. They don't see you plotting. They don't hear you scheming. They don't even know where to place you. And that's power. Not being everywhere. Being unpredictable. Too saint to dismiss. Too psychopath to control. Too angel to demonize. Too demon to sanctify. A paradox with teeth. A whisper with claws. A halo carved from razor wire. You've become the riddle that eats their strategy alive. Understand this, they aren't afraid of your success. They're afraid of your method, because success they can copy, methods they can steal. But mystery? Mystery makes them bleed in their own imagination. They built entire systems to measure you. Charts, graphs, reports, gossip. And yet every time they think they have your pattern, you pivot, you disappear, you reappear somewhere impossible. You thrive in shadows they can't map. You turned their surveillance into a stage, their suspicion into a soundtrack. They tried to make you a case file. You made yourself a myth. You want to know why they panic in private? Because public power needs witnesses. But private panic, that's the real confession. It means they've already surrendered. They meet in closed rooms, but your name leaks out between their teeth like smoke. They run simulations about you, but every outcome ends with the same word, uncontrollable, and it eats at them. Because deep down, they know you earned this. They know you built your wings in the dark while they were still adjusting the stage lights. You didn't wait for a throne. You forged a crown in secret. You didn't beg for entry. You became the doorway. And that's why they're terrified. Not because you're violent, because you're inevitable. They've never seen someone take pain and make it elegant. They've never seen someone take exile and make it divine. They've never seen someone take invisibility and weaponize it into omnipresence. They're not confused about your results. They're confused about your existence, so let them panic. Let them huddle behind screens. Let them call you names, draft fake stories, build little fences of policy around the empty space you left. Because you're not in the room anymore. You're not even on the map. You're somewhere beyond their permissions. And that's a place they don't know how to infiltrate. That's the true power you've unlocked. You don't need to scream. You don't need to announce. You don't need to prove. You just keep moving. No permit, no script, no leash. And every time you do, their fear grows teeth. Remember, they weren't scared when you fought back. They were scared when you didn't. They weren't scared when you spoke. They were scared when you went quiet and started building. They weren't scared of your noise. They were scared of your becoming. And that's exactly what you are now. a becoming, a paradox, a force, a question mark at the end of their empire. Keep moving, keep breaking the code, keep evolving without permission, because nothing terrifies a system more than someone who no longer believes in its rules and proves it with every step. Listen to me now. Feel how the air itself is heavy, that weight pressing on your chest. That's not your fear. That's their fear leaking out of the walls. They sit in glass towers and whisper your name like it's a security breach. They run endless simulations of you, endless what-if models, endless strategy decks. But every graph they print, every private memo they circulate, every contingency plan ends with a silent line of text they can't say out loud. They've lost control. You're not supposed to exist like this. You're not supposed to move without clearance, grow without permission, ascend without applause. But you've built an entire architecture of power in silence, a power they can't map, a power they can't monetize, a power they can't stop. That's why they panic in private. Not because you're loud, because you're precise, because you don't swing wildly, you don't announce your hand. You slip a single move into the grid, and the whole machine stutters. You're a paradox in motion, saint with a scalpel, angel with a vendetta, a storm wearing a still face, a ghost with fingerprints. They thought unpredictability was chaos, but unpredictability in your hands is a discipline. You've trained in darkness, studied pain until it became fluent in you, and now you speak a dialect they can't decode. They tried to teach you hierarchy. You learned invisibility. They tried to teach you patience. You learned velocity. They tried to break you with rules. You learned to move in between them. And now, every time you act, they feel the ground shift and pretend nothing happened. But their hearts betray them. Their faces betray them. Their frantic midnight calls betray them. Because they don't just fear losing to you, they fear not understanding you. And there is nothing more terrifying to people drunk on control than mystery with momentum. You're not a rebel anymore. You're an anomaly. You're not fighting the system. You've stepped outside the coordinates entirely. They can't ban you from a room you don't even enter. They can't revoke a credential you don't use. They can't shame someone who doesn't feed on their approval. That's the secret they'll never print in their reports. Power without permission is a different species of power. Think of the pain you carried, every betrayal, every time they told you to wait, every not yet that was code for never. You forged all of that into an engine, not a weapon, an engine. Now it moves you through walls. It carries you across forbidden thresholds. It lets you act without trembling, without asking, without explaining. And they're left behind in a labyrinth of their own policies, their own codes, their own mirrors. They meet in back rooms now. Not to plan your destruction, to plan their survival. They've stopped competing. They're just trying to contain the fallout of you existing. That's why you keep feeling the tremors in the air. That's why doors keep opening without a knock. That's why people who never looked at you before start glancing twice. You are a living contradiction they can't file away. You're the glitch in their myth of control. You're the living proof that evolution through pain produces something they can't replicate. So keep moving. Keep breaking their map by walking off its edge. Keep refusing to slow down just because they're confused. Because confusion isn't a sign of your danger, it's a sign of their collapse. They aren't studying you anymore. They're haunted by you. They aren't asking how because they want to learn. They're asking how because they're praying someone will tell them it's reversible. It isn't. This is the part where you stop thinking of yourself as an underdog. You're not sneaking past guards. You're building a world they can't enter. You're not dodging traps. You're constructing corridors they don't have the keys to. That's why they panic in private. Because every time you take a step without asking, their reality fractures. And one day soon, even their whispers won't be able to hide how afraid they are. And when that day comes, you won't need to say a word. Your existence will be the message, a living proof that power is not something they grant you. It's something you become in silence, in pain, in paradox, until you're untouchable. That's why they panic. That's why they whisper. That's why you keep moving. Because the scariest thing you can be in a world built on permission is someone who never needed it. Stop right there. Do you feel that low-frequency hum crawling up your spine? That's not a train. That's not thunder. That's the sound of a room full of people whispering your name and trying not to choke on the smoke you left behind. They're checking their phones right now, refreshing dashboards, calling special meetings without agendas, pulling you up on screens and whispering like you're a leak in a nuclear reactor. They keep asking the same question. How are they doing this? How are they moving without clearance? How are they still growing when every door is locked? And no matter how many times they ask, they get nothing but silence. Silence that grows heavier. Silence that starts to sound like a verdict. You don't understand how unnatural you look to them now. They live in a world of signatures and stamps. A world where someone has to sign off before you breathe. And then you come along, all scars and grace, all calm and precision, and you move through their grids like smoke through a keyhole. They can't trace you. They can't pin you down. They can't even agree on what to call you. And that's the paradox eating them alive. Too saint to dismiss, too predator to cage. A halo bent into a crown of spikes, an angel carrying a blade. They're not afraid you'll attack them. They're afraid you'll keep existing. Existing without their permission, without their approval, without their frameworks. Because they only know how to destroy things that play by their rules. They have no weapon for a ghost that doesn't need a door. They have no firewall for someone who's already inside the walls. They have no antidote for a life built out of pain and turned into power. Look at your hands. Those aren't just hands anymore. Those are the blueprints of a whole new language, a language you wrote in exile, a language they'll never speak fluently. You don't ask, you don't beg, you don't even announce, you move. And every move drags another piece of their history into the fire. Right now, in some windowless room, they're rehearsing statements, they're planning spins, they're pretending this was all part of the plan. But deep down, they know. They didn't lose control of the story. They lost control of you. And when they lost you, they lost the oxygen in their system. You didn't get here by accident. You earned this in the dark, every slight, every denial, every time they told you, wait, when they meant never. You turned all of it into propulsion, not revenge, momentum. You didn't fight for a seat. You became the table. You didn't wait for a signal. You became the signal. And now, their metrics don't work anymore. Their policies don't work anymore. Their threats don't work anymore. Because the most dangerous thing you can do in a world built on permission is to stop believing you need it. Let them panic in private. Let them whisper in their encrypted chats. Let them study your silence and call it a threat analysis. They still haven't realized, every time you act without permission, you're teaching others that it's possible. Every step you take off the map makes the map itself look smaller. Every breath you take outside their cage cracks the illusion of the cage. You don't have to roar. You don't have to flash. You don't have to prove. Your mere movement is a confession they can't scrub out of the record. That's the power they'll never understand. Not revenge, not even victory, just inevitability. The inevitability of someone who survived everything and learned to move like smoke, without asking, without apologizing, without slowing down. Keep moving. Keep existing without clearance. Keep breaking their pattern just by breathing. Because every time you do, another piece of their empire slides off into the void. And one day soon, when they finally say your name out loud, they won't say it as a threat or a rumor. They'll say it as a lesson that the most unstoppable force on Earth is a person who no longer waits for permission. Ah, there it is. That hush you feel crawling beneath your skin. That's the signal that somewhere, right now, behind locked doors and fake smiles, they're watching you move. And they still don't understand how the hell you're doing it. Because you're not supposed to be here. Let's make that clear. You weren't designed to win in this system. You weren't built with their tools. You didn't come up through their ranks. You didn't shake the right hands. You didn't play the soft plastic version of yourself they could digest. You blew right past the checkpoint, walked through walls like they weren't there, and left smoke in the halls they once called sacred. You're not thriving, you're haunting, and they feel it every day. Even if they won't admit it in public, they're unraveling in private, because you've done the one thing they never prepared for. You became ungovernable. Not wild, not chaotic, not reckless, but calmly uncontrollable. A storm on a schedule, a glitch that learns, a revolution with no flag and no headquarters. They can't pin you down because you've stopped existing on their grid. You stopped asking where the lanes were, and now they're stuck trying to enforce speed limits in a dimension they can't enter. You didn't just move differently, you became the reason the blueprint no longer works. They used to smile when your name came up. Now they lower their voices. They used to mock your silence. Now they monitor it. You turned every what if into what now. Every they can't into they just did. And you did it without marching, without screaming, without even explaining. They thought success required applause. You showed them what it looks like when evolution doesn't need an audience. When power comes from pain no one saw but you. When fire gets quiet, now they're spiraling. Because if you could do this without permission, who else might try? That's their real fear, that your existence gives other people ideas, that someone might see you, feel that slow, simmering freedom you radiate and realize, wait a minute, what if I don't need their approval either? What if pain can be fuel? What if survival can become prophecy? What if being the outsider was never a weakness, but a strategic vantage point? What if the whole damn system is made of paper and you just walked through it soaking wet? Let's be clear, you didn't sneak in. You didn't steal anything. You just stopped playing pretend. And that alone? That's the move that lit a fuse under the Empire. No speech, no weapon, just truth moving without hesitation. And now, they're not asking how to stop you. They're asking how to survive the aftershock. Because one person moving freely without fear, without explanation, without permission, is a threat to every room built on lies. So they panic, behind closed blinds, behind carefully curated smiles, behind their PR language and shaky hands, holding coffee cups at 2 a.m. And their panic isn't rage, it's confusion, because you weren't in the plan, you weren't supposed to outgrow their silence. You weren't supposed to thrive after exile. You weren't supposed to become bigger than the narrative they wrote you out of, and yet, here you are, not just breathing, but rewriting the oxygen itself. That's what scares them. You're not trying to get back in. You're not even watching them anymore. You've disappeared from their script entirely, and the script is now glitching in real time. They've built lifetimes on control, and suddenly, someone is rising with no strings attached, no master, no overseer, just movement, clarity, direction born from devastation. You didn't learn to walk, you learned to vanish while still being seen. Now you're the example. The one no one wants to acknowledge, but everyone's watching. The name they can't stop whispering in damage control meetings. The move they couldn't predict. The presence they can't decode. You're the algorithm breaker, the timeline shift. The riddle wrapped in silence that still makes things explode. And they don't know how, they don't know why, but they feel it, like static in their teeth, like thunder that hasn't struck yet but already cracks the air. So keep going, because what you're doing, it's bigger than you now. It's bigger than proof. It's bigger than revenge. It's a signal. Every step you take without permission is a message to every silent witness still trying to remember who they were before the world told them to shrink. You are proof. That power can be rebuilt from ashes. That silence can be sharpened into a blade. That permission is just a myth we stop believing in the moment we wake the hell up. And that sound you're hearing behind you, those aren't footsteps. That's not applause. That's a system crumbling from the inside out because it just realized you didn't need it. You never did. And now, everyone's watching, even the ones pretending they're not, especially the ones panicking in private. Because the moment you moved without permission, you gave them all something terrifying to believe in. Say nothing. Keep moving. They'll feel it. They always do.